It has been, but he's still, it's funny because he and his, there's three of them that own the company. I mean, they work for themselves, but they decided they'd be selling masks. So
Son, this is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. We did have a work session at 6 previous to this meeting, and that's also noticed, and also you're all welcome to attend a work session. A work session is kind of interesting because there's just a lot more discussion about one or two subjects that we need to get a little deeper in on the subject. So you're welcome to that. But this is our 7 p.m. regular session, and I'm Randy Lewis. I'm the mayor, and
Kate Bradshaw.
Chris Simonson,
Kendall Harris.
Richard Higginson.
thank you. Also, our entire city council is here, and we're glad that we're glad for all of you and welcome you who are attending and observing today. And I expect that you're here and you're healthy, so that's good. And as you see, we distance everybody as much as possible. And thank you for wearing masks. And I do have a mask. I'm just talking for a minute. So we'll start by having a pledge of allegiance, and we've asked Tyson Beck. He's our guru, financial guru of the city. And if you'll lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We also have with us President Bryce Bangeter from the Stone Creek Stake, and he's a counselor in the stake presidency, and we feel very privileged for you to come, and if you'd offer a prayer for us, that'd be wonderful. Yep, please, right up here.
Our eternal Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity and the freedoms that we enjoy in this great country. We thank you for the city of Bountiful and the people in it that are with us. Thank you for the blessed area that we live in. We ask you to bless our national leaders, especially at this time, and our local and state leaders, and our city leaders. Help us to follow thy inspiration and direction and decisions that are made. The livelihood, the lives of people here, and the future generations. We thank you for many blessings. Pray for these things. In the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, President Bangeter, and you're welcome to stay for several hours. That will be here, but you're also can be dismissed anytime that's convenient for you. Thank you. It is time for public comment. And for those of you who don't know, we have a 10-minute public comment time. Each person can take up to 2 minutes. There is a little buzzer right here. And if you'll give your name and your address so that we have that for the record. And I might add that if you're here for one of those public hearings down here on the sheet, one of those has to do with trailers, temporary trailers. The other one has to do with, let's see, that's land use code regarding accessory structures. If you're there for those, and you can just wait for that instead of doing it at this 2 minutes, but it's up to you. You're the public, and we're happy that you're here. So I'm going to turn some time over to the public to come up. 2 minutes. A stampede. Okay, we're good. We'll move on. So I want to consider the approval of the minutes, council, for the meetings held on November 11th, 2020. That was the Finance Committee, and December 8th, 2020, page for just 2020, December 8th. So any corrections or additions to any of those minutes?
Mayor,
not
I'd like to
all-
make a motion
Please,
that we approve the minutes of November 11th, 2020 Financial Committee and December 8th, 2020.
thank you. A second? Thank you, Richard. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Council, let's see, consider approval, or no, council reports. Thank you. Richard,
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
thank you. And for you,
Nothing.
thank you. Kendall?
I don't have anything to report, but I just want to thank Gary and Kate and the others, Clint and the others that will be spending lots of time at the session this year in our behalf. It's really helpful and it's wonderful. I know you're active with the league and we appreciate your service and how that helps our city. So thank you for what you're about to embark on.
Thank you. And Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick comment on the Bountiful Veterans Park.
Really?
Do I sound like a broken record?
No, it's a good record.
But I want those that are here today to know how much the Bountiful veterans appreciate the support of this city in allowing us to build a Bountiful Veterans Park. Just as one quick comment, in the last 3 weeks, we have had 19 POWs from this city come forward. Now, POW is a prisoner of war, and we're right now building a memorial that will have their names, and there'll be a picture, and all of that will be placed in this memorial. Saturday, I'm trying not to be emotional, I'm sorry, but I get so many phone calls from families of veterans thanking the Bountiful Veterans Park for building this wonderful park where they can go there, look at the names, take their grandkids there, see what Grandpa did. 12 noon Saturday, I got a text from a wonderful lady who said, my dad was on Iwo Jima when they raised the Marine flag, the United States flag. And there in the park is a depiction of that. She said he saw that this week. He's 101 years old and he died Friday. She says, you don't know what this meant to him. So anyway, just thank you, the citizens of Bountiful. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to pay back to the men and women and families that have served our great country. Thank you, man.
Chris, thank you. How many of you have been over to the new Veterans Park? How many of you? Okay, and if you haven't, for those of you who don't know, you know, it's over by the city hall that's being remodeled right now. It's right next to it. It's amazing. So if you haven't seen it, you need to go over and experience, because this is truly a very bright spot in our city. Thank you, Chris, and your folks for helping us. Kate.
Well, in keeping with both Councilman Simonson's and Councilwoman Harris's comments, mine is in a similar vein-ish. Thanks to all the work of the veterans, we have the ability to engage in public meetings. And so my comment is just to remind the public that the legislative session starts next week on the 19th. And just as we hope people engage here on city level policy, we hope you engage on state level policies that impact us here at home too. Many of the things we do at the city level are because we must do them because the state requires it. And some of the things we want to do, we're impacted by that process as well. So we have that ability to engage that has been preserved by all the people at Chris's Veterans Park. So please pay attention to that level as much as you paid attention to our level too. Engaging during COVID is both harder and more easier because we can't meet in person in quite the same ways, but the legislature has adopted a whole bunch of new virtual ways to meet as well. So I encourage everyone to check those out and stay engaged, because a lot of those will be issues that do have impacts right here at home in Bountiful.
Thank you. Anything else, Kate?
That is it.
Okay. BCYC report.
Looks like they're not here, just that we had a great holiday activity at the Ice Ribbon, which we've talked about, has been our activity at the Ice Ribbon was really well attended and they had a great time. And they were excited to participate in the Bar J Wranglers concert, but that obviously was canceled due to COVID. But no, they are just really a good group of kids.
Thank you, Millie. Hopefully we'll be able to get
Yeah.
them all activated and all the things they want to do. I think we're at the beginning of the end, at least. We got to consider then, council, the approval of expenditures greater than $1,000 paid November 30th, December 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th of 2020, and the November 2020 financial report, which we have been given. Any again, corrections or additions or notices? Not, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Millie. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll turn some time now to you, Lloyd, our city engineer. Thanks, Lloyd, for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. It's my pleasure to introduce a face that's familiar to you, and so I'd invite Mark and Jana to come on up. Mark Slagowski, our former Water Department Director. As I was sitting here tonight thinking about some of the things I could say about Mark, I had to kind of chuckle to myself that no matter what I tell you, it only reflects about half of Mark's career. You know, I can only comment on the second half of his career. Mark's been an employee of the city for over 40 years, working in the water department. Certainly he has provided a great amount of leadership and been a great example to the current members of the water department, current employees there. I think that the city would certainly be different without Mark. You can ask him any question about pretty much any part of the water system and he knows the answer. He knows how it operates backwards and forwards, inside, outside. He's just a tremendous resource. And I know that as I've worked in the engineering department, there's been many times that we've picked up the phone and we've had our ideas about how things work, and then we've called Mark and got the real answer. What a great experience it's been to work with him. So I'll just turn a few minutes over to Mark for some comments.
Thanks, Lloyd. Mark?
I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm really grateful for the opportunity I've had to work for Bountiful City. When I showed up in the 70s, there wasn't much above 9th East, and it's been quite a change. I don't think there's a hole or a street in town I haven't dug a hole in. And so I've left a mark. But I'm grateful for Bountiful City more than you can imagine, because they allowed me to raise my family and helped me to raise my family. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And all I can say, it's been great working with the employees, present and past, and it's been a great ride. And thank you, council, for your support. I did some pretty tough stuff with your support, and I'm really grateful that you let me do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jana, I want to ask you a question, see if you'd come up and answer it for us. Okay, so how many, in these many years, how many Christmases did he have a major water leak that he had to leave your family for?
Well, you want me to pinpoint I don't know. It happened once.
Once?
Once that I
tell
can.
you, I was working either Christmas or Christmas Eve 17 times.
Yes, but he always
But
made
this
it, we
counts.
always made it work. Like his birthday is the day before Christmas. We always made everything work, no matter what. So, but I do remember one time when the floods came that oh my goodness, that was terrible.
Well, thank you. Listen, you know, maybe one of the nicest things can be said about somebody that, from their boss or their people who see them work, is that they live in such a way that you don't have to ever worry about them. And I think that's been the case that I always hear about you since I've been the mayor, is you're somebody that we depend on, but it's also somebody we never have to worry about. Thank you, Mark, for all that you do. Here's a certificate, and I'm going to give you the money, but she's going to spend it. And then some flowers.
You don't know me very well. Thank
Some
you.
flowers.
That's very nice.
You're so welcome.
Now I'm the boss.
We should, I can't imagine what you really deserve to get, but you work in government, so this is what you get. Appreciate it. While he's shaking, he said he's been on every road, dug up every road in Bountiful. There's 159 miles of road in Bountiful. For those of you who don't know, 159 miles. So
Mayor,
he's been on a lot of them. Yes, Richard.
Could I ask a personal favor to say something about Mark?
Yes, please.
It got tiresome that he had to be the center of attention all the time. But aside from that, if you think about our water system, we faced a pretty serious challenge a few years ago with the premature failure of our ductile iron pipe. There were problems that needed fixed. There were flow problems that needed solved. And the council decided to take the heat to increase fees so that Mark could put a plan into effect to get us caught up on those kinds of things. And I just want to say that Mark's awesome. I mean, he requires zero attention, and yet he does an enormous job. He's just an awesome guy.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
for that.
I think that deserves another. Thank you both. Thank you. Thanks, Jenna. It's so fun to be able to honor people that have given so much. I'm going to turn some time now over to Kendall.
Thank you so much, Mayor. We get to honor someone else tonight, and that is Bruce and Michelle Barton. And so I'll just read a little bit about them and then ask them to come up and if they want to say a few words. Barton Comfort Shoes, after 45 years as a Bountiful Main Street business, has closed its doors. Bruce and his wife, Michelle, are the second generation of Barton Shoes and have been running the business for the past 25 years after buying the business from Bruce's father. Bruce's father was known for being a real people person. And I have to say, I think that Bruce and Michelle carried that on. Barton's Comfort Shoes has been known for serving the community with high quality shoes and arch supports for the comfort and support of those who demand more from their footwear. They've also been able to fill prescriptions for custom foot orthotics and shoe modifications to improve quality of ambulation and reduce pain. And Bruce teamed up with another company called Priority Footwear and Pedorthic Service for a number of years, dispensing medical shoes to the diabetic population. And that business has kind of grown, and so it was hard for him to find time to run both businesses. Bruce is a board-certified pedorthist and has specialized in helping people with challenging feet, neuropathy, bunions, amputations, and the like. And Michelle helped manage the business, as well as working on her own business, serving clients as a zone balance rejuvenist. Bruce has also served as treasurer of the Main Street Merchants Association and has given a lot of time and work to helping the businesses on Main Street in Bountiful. And even though their business has been growing and has a lot of potential the COVID virus hit them hard, like many other businesses. And also a lot of people have shifted to buying shoes online, which I do not understand because you have to try shoes on, right? To know if they fit. but buying online shoes. And so it's now time for them to say goodbye. And it's been hard for them to say goodbye because they feel like they have so many great relationships with many loyal customers from our community. So please, Bruce and Michelle, if you would just come and tell a few words about what it's been to do business in Bountiful all these years.
Well, thank you, Kendall, Mayor, and Bountiful City Council. We appreciate the honor and recognition. 45 years, long time to be a fixture on Bountiful's Main Street, and we love Bountiful's Main Street. It's been wonderful to serve the people of the community. And I'm not going away entirely. We're still kind of in a little section of the original store, still filling prescriptions and working with the diabetic community. And hopefully we can even find another area that might be a little bit bigger, hopefully on Main Street. We're still looking. But we've appreciated the opportunity to be in this community. It's a wonderful community. And I feel bad for so many customers that keep coming down and say, we didn't know you were gone. And you've helped me for so many years. Where am I going to get my shoes? So we'll have to figure that out. But anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate this honor.
Thank you.
Please.
One of the biggest regrets we've had is that we don't live in Bountiful. We live in Farmington. And having a business here, there are a lot of things that would come up that we would wish that we could vote on or be part of. But we've always felt that we were part of the Bountiful community just because we had a business here. So we thank you for all that you've done for Main Street. You guys have always supported Main Street, and that's a great benefit to the businesses there. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Barton, just as you're leaving, you know, I've watched the councils now for a few years, and the councils for some time before me as well, really focused on Main Street to do things that on the long run are going to support those businesses. I feel sorry that we just weren't ahead of things where we could have supported you even more. But we just want you to know how important you've been for our community. Thank you again. See ya. Bye-bye. You have a good day. Yeah, bye-bye. And Alan Johnson, or no, excuse me. Going to turn that over to Gary.
It's time for a reappointment of a position on the Power Commission. Mr. Paul Summers has been a Power Commissioner for a number of years and has been asked by the mayor to continue his service for another 4 years, and he's gratefully accepted. Paul's a great man and has been an incredible voice for Bountiful Power and in helping us make sure that we have the ability to maintain and repair our system. And so with that, council, this is an appointment being made by the mayor and needs the consent of the city council.
So we're looking at the reappointment of Paul to the Power Commission, and I don't know if you want to make a comment or anything, Richard, but
It would be hard to say enough good about Paul. He's just a great guy and enormous experience.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to make a motion that we confirm his reappointment to the Power Commission.
Second.
Thank you, Kendall. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll turn our time now over to our illustrious planner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This is an amendment to the land use code to permit temporary sales offices and trailers located in the residential zone. We had a discussion about this on December 8th, and you directed staff to come back with some criteria for it, allowing these types of structures, I'm sorry, temporary structures as a conditional use. We have the criteria here, and about 45 minutes ago, I spoke with the applicant. He had not seen the report. He was not able to make it. As a courtesy, he's asking for us to continue this item to the next meeting on January 26th. We did notice it as it was continued as a public hearing. So if you're okay with that, I would like to change my recommendation to follow that. If you decide to take action on this, I'll be more than happy to give you a better presentation on the findings.
No, with that, so your recommendation is to continue with the public hearing?
As a courtesy to the
Okay.
applicant, I think it
Yeah,
would be
And
appropriate.
for those who are here for this item, we will now open this to a public hearing. And again, you're welcome to come to the rostrum here and please give your name and where you live. And we'll open this now to public hearing. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing, and we will then postpone any further discussion and is you to the 26th.
If that's what you'd like
If
to
that's-
do,
is that okay with
we would need a motion for that.
with a motion from the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd love to make a motion that we postpone this item until Tuesday, the 26th.
Perfect.
Second.
Thank you, Millie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And the next item is also Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the proposed land use code text amendment to section 14-4-105J regarding accessory structures in the single family residential zone. We had the city council take a look at this last on December 8th, and we are still doing some research and analysis, and that's why it was continued to tonight's meeting. Just following the recommendation that we provided, and if you'd like to follow along, I'm on page 46 and 47 of the staff report. The yellow line that shows here on these two different samples is a strict interpretation of the ILJ, that's the administrative law judge, as a determination was made August of last year regarding a building permit that the city issued. I like to call that a happy mistake because it simply allowed us to take a better look of how we've been interpreting the code over many years, and it provided us an opportunity to start the city initiated land use code amendment to update and bring a substantial number of accessory structures into compliance. The planning commission, they did get to weigh in. Their recommendation is the light blue line. I'm still on page 46 and 47. Staff, we feel that it would be better, or it would provide a broader range of bringing more structures into compliance if it was the dark blue line, which is 10 feet behind the front wall plane. I gave you these two examples on page 46 as any of the blue lines on the Maxine Core example, it does it for them. But the next one, which is page 47, it obviously brings that structure into compliance. And no, we're not doing this for this specific item on Jerry Drive. And the better samples or more samples are found throughout the attachment 2, I believe, in the staff report. As you can see that the 10-foot setback from the front wall plane brings a lot more structures into compliance. The recommendation is listed on page 48. It's the middle. It's one middle of the page. Again, simply providing a setback, officially changing that instead of being behind or located behind the rear of the building to be set back at least 10 feet from that front building line. Furthermore, on page 49, we have an exhibit there that it's a section of Bountiful, and this is just a quick sample. Obviously, we could have provided a lot more samples, and this is not the first time that you reviewed this, but this neighborhood has somewhat of a smaller lots that already have a substantial or simply an accessory structure, as you can see there on the south side of 1600 South between I believe that's 4th and 5th East. And based on the placement of that accessory structure, if we were to follow that ALJ recommendation, all these houses would not be able to expand towards the rear of each house, as those lines would already be established. So this also solves these items. And we've had at least two different property owners in this neighborhood come up a few years ago and identify the issue that we had with the current code. As indicated back in November and December, the ALJ's ruling does impact dozens, if not maybe even hundreds of properties throughout the city. If that interpretation, if we were to apply those, it would create quite the headache for me and my staff, and we would have a whole bunch of illegal units throughout the city. We believe that amending the code, we would be consistent with the city's historical and current interpretation of the code. Again, I call that a happy mistake that was brought up, and it would bring a substantial number of sites into compliance, and it would allow that more appropriate compliance. Given the effects of where the city is as far as built out, one could make an argument that it pushes, or it would allow a lot more accessory structures towards the front of the house of the lot. And if you didn't know Bountiful, or if you thought that if we were at our infancy as far as residential single family development, that would be the case. Unfortunately, on that argument, we're at the exact opposite of development. And while some lots could entertain a bigger accessory structure placed towards the front, it would be a very limited number of structures that would qualify for that. And that's why we make such recommendation. We believe that the proposed ordinance creates more value as a lot of these structures would be brought into compliance than the possible negative impacts that it would have of a future accessory structure. I will be more than happy to expand on what I just said. We do have an ordinance ready as outlined on page 51. Staff, we recommend that City Council approve the draft ordinance with the amendments to the land use code that were provided on November 17th, 2020. That's a 10-foot setback. And do we need a public hearing? Is that where the item was continued? I believe we should have a public hearing on that.
Right, we do have a public hearing. A question though.
Yes.
So if I understand this correctly, help me if I don't. But if the property is non-compliant, and you're saying that by doing the 10-foot setback, we'll have a lot less non-compliance than we would otherwise. And if they are non-compliant or non-conforming there, that it's illegal then to make an addition of either the accessory structure or the home itself.
That is correct. Based on the ALJ's interpretation, the ordinance would make it so some of those affected neighborhoods would simply not be able to expand towards the rear of the lot if that accessory structure was on the side, as many shown on page 49 of the staff report.
Very, very important part of this discussion. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, please?
Go ahead. You go. First, I'm grateful that in this report and the last report, you noted how the planning commission voted, because I know I appreciated that. But then this is, as far as the property line, we're talking specifically about the applicant's property line as it borders a back, a rear property, or a side property. In that case, how is it, what would be done if a property owner's rear property line bordered someone's side property? As far as the 3-foot setback or the 20-foot setback, because it wouldn't be one or the other. They'd be in conflict with each each other.
I-
if I'm reading that
I'm not
correctly.
quite sure I follow the question.
So it says the setback, excuse me, so shall be set back at least 3 feet from a rear or interior side property line and at least 20 feet from a side yard. So what if
Okay.
someone's rear property line butts up to someone else's side yard? Does that
Yeah,
make
so
sense?
the setback determination are done on a case by case basis. And in some cases, you could have exactly that. Unfortunately, when we plat new subdivisions, nothing is perfect as far as right angles, and it's based on the geometry of the land. And in many cases, you do have you can have a side setback abutting a rear of a neighbor, depending on the layout and the angle, frontages. We just deal that as
So that would just be
accordingly.
simply case by case.
It is. And not just that, but it's not just something that we look at administratively. I have some diagrams in the zoning code that tells me what those setbacks are supposed to be. And we have that in graphic representation to be for it to be simple for the public to understand. But this is platting and setbacks, business as usual.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Francisco.
Please.
Sorry, can we clarify that?
Yeah.
I want to make sure, I'm not sure that, I want to make sure that the question was answered. I think your question was, if you're the applicant and your back lot line is someone else's side lot line,
Yes.
which setback applies?
Yes.
And it is the back lot line that applies because you're the applicant.
So it's yes, it's the applicant's. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. Francisco, earlier today, all of us were sent an email by Mr. Anderson, who had some questions, and you were able to reply with some answers. But there was one question I still had about, we don't seem to address the size of the accessory structure. And he had a note in his email that just struck me about, a tough shed or a tool shed that is 100 square feet versus a garage or an accessory dwelling unit that might be, several hundred square feet. And we don't seem to differentiate those at all in our code. And I wondered if you could help me understand the reasoning for putting them all into one versus having some size limit that recognizes the difference that a tough shed might have versus a 2-car garage as an accessory structure.
Yeah, in my, even prior to my involvement in this specific application, I haven't run into a municipality that has a dual standard, say for a tough shed versus a 2-car garage, a 2-car garage. Most often, municipalities they're set just like we are, as one standard. Based on that and based on what people are comfortable with, if a neighbor puts a tough shed somewhere and it doesn't meet setback, you got to understand that first, it doesn't require a building permit if it's less than 200 square feet. And most of these smaller tough sheds, people are so used to them that they don't even question. They don't call, that they're okay with it. And that's what I think has happened in our state, or at least in our community, that we don't have that double standard or that secondary standard for a size. We can certainly do more research and move forward on creating such, but I don't think that it's absolutely necessary that we do. Mr. Forgot his last name.
Mr. Anderson.
Anderson did not provide any sample of municipalities that have that, and it's simply a practice that I don't think it does exist, based on the fact that, again, most people are often okay with that tough shed that you can buy at Home Depot.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, we will do a public hearing. And that public hearing now is open. And you're welcome to come up again. Just a reminder, name and address, and the time is yours. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing and look for any more discussion council, about this item?
Mayor, if I could,
Please.
I just want to say that I'm really enthusiastic about fixing what I see is a really terrible, well, I don't want to be too strong, a really, really terrible decision by administrative law judge. I know that we've had a culture in the city of allowing people to build accessory structures that are useful and complement their property while protecting neighborhoods from egregious infractions. I'm glad that we're doing this not as a response to any particular project, but to codify what has been done in general in the past. I'm comfortable with either of the two standards, frankly. In response to Kate's question about size of projects, we have a square footage or a percentage coverage maximum that keeps really big projects in check. A lot has to have a certain percentage of open property still. So that I'm not worried about that as much as you are. I think this is the right thing to do. And I really appreciate Francisco putting together a great layout to help explain it both verbally and visually so that I can understand.
So, somebody want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion that we approve this as described by Francisco.
The question I have before I second that is, do you prefer the 10-foot or the 20-foot front wall setback?
Yeah, so I'm recommending the 10-foot just to help keep things, keep more properties in compliance, and I prefer what staff recommends here in this case.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not an aye, but I'm glad you all did it. Any opposed? Thank you. That item passes. Thanks for all your really, really good work there.
If I could say something real quick,
Please.
I appreciate Councilman Higginson's compliment, but I wasn't the only one working on this project. We had a lot of other people within my shop and city administration working on this. So thank you.
We're glad you have a lot of helpers. Next item, Lloyd, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope this next item seems a little bit familiar to you. Late last year, we started the process with the sewer district to amend their boundary. The sewer district ran into a little bit of a hiccup on their side. State law unfortunately prohibits having a public hearing while you're having a truth and taxation note or activity, which they had unfortunately scheduled the same night. So we had to push the reset button on this modification to the sewer district's boundary. The memo that I provided you is essentially the same as was given to you previously. I have included a new graphic, which is on page 85, which describes the 4 areas which would be amended into the sewer district's service area. You can see that 3 of those 4 areas pretty much don't include any developed areas. The exception being area 3 down in the Summerwood development that would modify the sewer district's boundary. So this is a 2-step process. Tonight, the adoption of the notice of intent to modify the district's boundary is the first step. The second step is a public hearing, which we have scheduled for you on April 13th, that we followed up by the district's public hearing on April 15th. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'd recommend that you approve the notice of intent to modify the boundary.
Thanks, Lloyd. Any questions from anyone? Okay. If not, we'll look for a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve Resolution 2021-01 as outlined by Lloyd.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Millie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you.
And Brock. Hey, Brock, I just can't help it, but today I learned something I thought was pretty interesting, and that was, so we had a lot of play at the golf course, right? We had. But I read today that that was all over the United States. There were record numbers of rounds played in golf, and that's been quite a few years since that's happened.
Yeah.
So COVID, in some respects, it pushed people out to recreate where they could, and that was golf. So since you're responsible for that, I thought I might tell you that before my mind forgets it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
We, on the recreation side of parks, we've seen that uptick in use all over the place. So our parks have never been used more. We saw more abuse on the playgrounds and all those kinds of things, which is a good thing. That's why they're there, right? So
there were 15 cars at Creekside Park the other day, and it was 27 degrees. And the kids were all out playing like it was the middle of the summer. Pretty amazing.
yeah, it's fun to see. It's fun to see that many out there and the parks being
Sorry
used.
to disjoint you a little bit.
No, that's fine. I appreciate the time, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, I'm here to talk to you more about the cemetery. Just as of note, back on November 10th, the council, we appreciate you approving the plotting of Plattar. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the landscaping of Plattar, which is the final open piece of property or ground that we have in the current cemetery. It's on the far west of the cemetery. It borders Performance Honda and a small privately owned fourplex property on that west and southwest corners of the current city cemetery. We had 3 companies respond to the request for bids, and only 2 of those companies actually turned in a bid. So we'll be talking about those tonight. Maybe just of note for you to help you understand where we are in the cemetery. We're down to about 750 current available plots, burial plots. And just to help you put that into perspective, we're selling about 600 plots per year. So right now we only have about a year's worth of inventory for our residents and those other patrons that come to the cemetery. So this is an important part of expanding and adding to that inventory. When we're done landscaping this plat, that'll add about 200 or 2,500 additional burial plots to the current inventory. So that gives us about 5 years to work through. We think that we'll see an uptick in sales as we have over the last 5 years. We're burying on average about 330 per year in our cemetery. And we thought as we adjusted pricing here not too long ago, that would help with the resident, non-resident ratio, but it's not. We're seeing actually more non-residents come to our cemetery just because there's so few options available to them in the southern end of Davis County. So this is an important part. We had 2 bids submitted, like I said, one from Elite Landscape Services for $73,820. And that was the base bid, which was just seed. I had them bid an option of sod, which if we could fit it into the budget, we would prefer because that allows those plots to be available sooner. And then another bid from Erickson Landscape for $68,627. So if you add in the sod alternate to that, those totals were $105,180 and $95,282 respectively. After reviewing the bids and making sure that they met all the qualifications and requirements, we believe that Erickson Landscape Construction has the best bid of $95,282. And that's our recommendation from staff, is that you approve the cemetery to enter into a landscape construction contract with Erickson Landscape for that $95,282. And I'll answer any questions you have.
May I?
Please.
Is the 605 burial plots sold last year high, like toilet paper sales, or is it pretty average?
It's pretty average
Is
over
that-
the last 5 years. Yeah.
In your opinion, Brock, do we need to revisit again our policy on non-resident use?
Not yet. I think maybe in the next year or two, we may have to look at that.
Okay.
Mayor,
Thanks.
can I have a similar question?
Please.
On non-resident, if we reconsider that, would we consider their connection to Bountiful? For instance, they were born and raised here, but now they live in Idaho, or their children live in Bountiful. Would there be some way we could coordinate a connection to Bountiful with those that are in the cemetery?
Yeah, we deal with those on a case-by-case basis already. And it just depends on length of time away, I think is really kind of the deciding factor. And we're following some state guidelines. There's really no mandates. There's no laws or anything that we are required to follow when it comes to what you're talking about. We look at what we've done in the past, we look at the situation, and then make decisions based on that. We found that when you draw a line in the sand, that everybody's going to argue that line. And so we've had to treat everybody as a case-by-case basis. Would you add anything to that, Gary, or have anything to say more?
No, just that I echo what Brock said, as far as no matter where you draw the line, you will have people that will make an argument that they should be on the correct side of it. And so I think when we do have the conversation again, we need to, we'll bring it all together. And I think the policy discussion is really going to be, for whom should the benefit of residency be provided, and for what reason? And what you're suggesting would expand it, the definition of residency from what it is currently. And that may be the decision you want to go, perhaps in exchange for not allowing non-residents at all anymore. I don't know, but I think all of those items we would want to bring back, with the goal being, what's your vision for the cemetery? If we're trying to preserve space and make it a priority for residents, then, the steps we kind of follow from there.
Or perhaps you're kind of suggesting tiers, like there's a tier for residents, and there's a tier that have a specific connection to residents, and there's another tier for just non-residents altogether. Anyway, I think those things could all be explored.
And honestly, Chris, if you look at what Richard has suggested and asked Brock, that I think these are the reasonable questions that we ought to be asking when we have this discussion in a while. Not quite ready yet. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I'm
All
okay.
right.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So I'll look for a motion unless there's any other question.
I'll make the motion to approve the bid for Erickson Landscaping of $95,282.
I'll second that.
That's Kate and Chris. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Brock,
thank you.
you're a star. And Francisco, you're a star tonight.
Thank you.
What do you got? What do you
This-
got for it?
This is the preliminary and final architectural and site plan review for a mixed-use residential commercial office development on the corner of 200 South and 200 West. The proposal has 1,200, that was very good timing, Brian, has 1,200 square feet of office space facing 200 West with 12 residential units, 8 one-bedroom and 4 two-bedroom units. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their meeting last week on January 5th. We are requesting that we delegate the landscape review to staff based on the fact that it's required they provide 15, they're providing 38. They have a significant additional number of trees lined up on 200 West, so we're completely okay with delegating that to staff, building permit review. And the other thing is that this property zone, MXDR, which is mixed use residential, which allows for parking reductions based on a parking study. We've got the exact language here on the second paragraph of page 98. The proposal was short 1 parking spot we could have made the applicant spend $4,000 and provide a parking study that would come back and say, yeah, we're okay with that one spot being shared between uses. We decided not to do that. This is, you are the land use authority when it comes to that. So you get the final say on that, again, because it's one spot. That study is going to come back and say that it can be shared. They've done a wonderful job with the elevations. If you want to, the site plan itself is on page 103 of your packets. And then we have some perspectives on page 105 with more with a preliminary elevation on page 106. We're very excited with the amount of brick that they have placed on this building. We're excited that perhaps as a follow-up to what the city's done, a wonderful job with the power department and the work here. This is another step which might be a catalyst for other people on 200 West to spend some time, money, and love in redeveloping this part of town. It's got more of an industrial feel and nature, so we completely welcome this development. This is not a public hearing. Brian Knowlton's here. And we do recommend that you move forward on the preliminary and final architectural and site plan review. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Kendall, so how the planning commission, how did they vote on this?
The planning commission was really excited about this project. It's such a good looking project and it's going to be great.
It looks great. Richard, you're kind of down in that area. Is that aesthetically a good spot? And
I'm less than 4 blocks from this project and I
Yeah.
love it.
yeah, well, that says a lot about the whole project. Any questions for Mr. Francisco?
I have a disclosure, Mayor.
Oh, please.
My company has done work for Knowlton General Contractors in the past. And it's possible that I will be able to bid this project should they request a bid from me. So I just want people to know that there is the potential that I might submit a bid on this project.
Okay.
But I still like it either way.
But I don't think that eliminates him from making a vote on this. Correct? Looking at our attorney. All right, I'll look for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve and grant preliminary architectural and site plan approval for the city power lofts development.
Thanks, Kate.
Second.
And Richard is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay. Knowlton, that's a good thing. Oh, very good. Okay, Mr. Gary Hill, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a pretty exciting opportunity, actually, and the end of a conversation that started many months ago, but is resolving, hopefully, an issue that started many years ago. The Eagle Ridge Drive is a partially completed street that ends slightly just before Skyline Drive at the base of the B. That road, as in all new roads in the city, are typically built as development demands. And so we wait until someone develops their own property and then they're required as a condition of development to build the infrastructure that goes along with that. The property near the B is all owned by private landowners, and they've had no plans to develop until a few years ago when some of the property changed hands, and there were plans to develop a portion of that that would have required the connection of Eagle Ridge Drive from the B to Bountiful Boulevard. We were all very excited about that because it would have dramatically helped public safety response to that area, would have decreased the amount of vandalism and graffiti that we see up there, would have added more traffic onto areas that need more traffic for visibility, for vandalism, and would have reduced traffic from some of the lower neighboring streets that lead up to the B now. Unfortunately, because of some issues with the developer, they weren't able to do that project, but we were able to meet and discuss with the county commissioners an option that has now provided the city the ability to build that road. In essence, what we have proposed to do is that we would borrow $1 million from Davis County to complete the road. That money would be paid back to the county when that property develops. The city will be repaid for those costs by the developer at the time that they develop, at the same cost that we put the road in for. It will save the developer money because it will be interest free. The city is not required to repay interest back to the county. And instead of having to wait 3 or 5 or however many years for that road to be built, once the development happens, we'll get a road hopefully done by the end of this year. And so along with that road would go all the required infrastructure that would be put in anyway. The developer will enter into an agreement, and this has not been done yet, but we have been in communication with the property owners, and they've been positive about it, that we would enter into a separate agreement with them to reimburse us for all the costs that they would be required to put in at the time when they develop. I think it's a great solution. Our hope would be that we would begin design and pre-construction in the spring, and that by the end of the calendar year we'd have a road up there. The step that we're asking you to take tonight is to accept the $1 million loan interest-free loan from Davis County from Prop 1 funds. The County Commission's already approved that, and tonight by your action we would have done our piece, and then we'll be able to move forward to the next legal pieces, which are the agreement with the private property owner, and then acquiring from the county either a right-of-way or an easement. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are you? Oh, sorry. I think you got a bunch. Where do you want to start? Okay. It's not so much a question as much as it's a compliment and a comment. And there are lots of compliments to go around on this one. So compliments, I think, to the city staff for continuing to work through very sticky issues with the private landowners and with the county. That it was an on again, off again, on again, off again thing, and you stuck with it. So compliments on that. We
Thank
have
you.
some of the neighbors that live up in that area that are here with us. And I think compliments to them because they continue to raise the issues of vandalism and lawlessness and fire danger and things like that are up at the B. And their continued pressure, not just on us, but on the county and sometimes on our federal delegation friends was also, I think, helpful to our struggles to keep the on and off again discussions going. And so, compliments and thanks for being engaged citizens and for caring deeply about your neighborhood. And so those are my comments and my compliments for putting together a great package that we can vote on.
Kate, in that same vein, these folks know how hard this has been for so long. I think there were times when many of you thought that this could never be done, but there's been a ton of hard work behind the scenes that have gone in to make this happen. And it really makes me happy because we've been dealing with this for a whole bunch of years, and Richard longer than me. So, this is going, when we see it, we'll believe it, right? When you see it, you'll believe it. But this is going to happen now. I'm really confident that we'll get that done, and then we'll have to have Nielsen's ice cream up there on the lawn again. All right.
We'll have it on our road.
Is that a deal like we did before? Oh, okay. Well, whatever it takes, we'll do it again.
I think, Mayor, it has to be a street party.
Yeah.
Any other? Did you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I love the outside the box thinking on this and everything Kate said about it. The biggest excitement for me is the fact that, just like Clint said about sunlight being the best disinfectant, once we have people traveling on this road, I think a lot of the bad behaviors are going to be greatly reduced. We're not going to have people down in that copse of trees on the east of the detention basin shooting in view of the road. I mean, it's just going to take care of a lot of the problems up there. So it's a wonderful step. And the developer gets to pay today's dollars for a road that he doesn't have to pay for until down the road a ways. Yeah. I mean, it's just, what a great solution. Thank you.
Yeah, this was good work.
Yeah.
This was good work. Millie.
No, and I second what has been said. I'm very excited about this. So, but my one question, I think you answered this, but I was reading in my packet, so I think I missed it. And because Richard touched on this, my one question was, at what rate is the reimbursement? Did I catch that right? That you said there's no interest, correct? So the builder will reimburse at today's cost, not future costs.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
that was my one question. So thank you very much.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment, Mayor. To me, this is truly a win-win. I know a number of the neighbors that live up in that particular area, wonderful people, and I'd like to compliment you on staying civil over all these years.
And how about patient?
And patient. And
Well,
patient.
there was that one meeting. Just teasing.
Yeah,
I know it's been a struggle and things you've had to put up with. I know in the short time I've been on the council that the city has been trying hard for years to make this happen. And when you're dealing with private property owners, you're dealing with county, all these people that have to come together. And so I'd really like to compliment staff for what they've done to pull this together. This is really a win-win for all of us. So anyway, just thank you. Thank you.
Perfect, Chris. Thank you. Any comment?
That's exciting. I'm so glad. It's great.
Yeah, you notice that every one of the city council people wanted to say something on this behalf because this is, I would count this as one of our major victories that it's taken a long time to get done. Thank you.
Although now the youth council will probably be looking for a new service project because they always used to clean up the graffiti around the B.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that will hopefully no longer be a
Right,
need.
but find another project.
Yes.
Because we want to keep them busy.
Yes, we do,
Yeah.
for sure.
Thanks again. It was nice of you to be here tonight and to kind of wait for this, but that's probably what you wanted to hear. Yeah. Thank you all.
Mr. Mayor, would you like a motion?
Next, oh yes, a motion, please.
Yeah,
I almost got ahead of myself. It wouldn't have even counted. Yeah, okay.
I would love to make a resolution or a motion that we approve resolution 2021-02 interlocal agreement with Davis County for $1 million loan to construct Eagle Ridge Drive.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nobody opposed. You're good. Gary. Did I have you next?
Thank
Oh,
you.
no.
Nope, it's Lloyd.
No, Lloyd. Sorry, Lloyd.
Mayor, given the fact that Lloyd says in his write-up that all of the requirements have been met to accept this subdivision, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this Cypress subdivision and release them from any further bond activity.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh my gosh, Lloyd. Hey, Richard.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Lloyd, hey, Lloyd, if you feel bad, we'll listen to it. Absolutely. Whatever you got.
Absolutely. All right.
Hey,
Thank you.
good night.
It's me.
It's you.
Yep.
And I'm happy to wait around for another motion. This is just a very simple thing. Every January or so, we try and, well, throughout the year, I just kind of keep my eye on the policy manual, make sure there's not some changes that need to be made. These are all very simple. Because of that, I'm not even going to go into detail because they're literally, it's 4 different changes. You know, there's more than 4 changes, but some of them are the exact same thing throughout the policy. Changing some titles, emails, holidays, the name of a disciplinary hearing to a predetermination hearing. I'm happy to comment on any of them, but otherwise I just submit it to you.
Why were we not celebrating Martin Luther King Day previously?
Because we don't know. We have theories, but we don't know. We think it's tied to the legislative session used to be
To start.
active during that time, and so people were working, and so with the legislative change, felt like it was appropriate.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to approve
Question,
that
can I ask a
resolution.
question, Mayor? Can I ask a
Okay,
question? On page 124, Clint, we read the different holidays and we go to 125 and we read the rest of them, but there's one missing. It's the Bountiful Coats for Kids Car Show.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
Got you on that one, didn't I?
yeah, you sure did.
Well, with that, you making a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Everybody stay safe.
You have to motion to adjourn?
Oh, a motion to adjourn. Yes.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now.
Everybody saw 7:30 Thursday morning.